Welcome YouTube, and welcome back to all my Buster buddies. Hey, it's your big kahuna here, Brad, and this is Brad's Boredom Busters, your textile art channel. This is a channel where we have fun with fabric. All right, and on this episode, we are going to have fun with fabric. So we are going to be exploring a specific art quilt technique. So this is an example of an art quilt that I made, and I am going to be demonstrating how I did the landscaping on this quilt. And so we aren't going to be making a large quilt, but I'll be showing you the technique in a smaller example, a small one that you could actually put in a picture frame and hang on your wall. And so this is a great project also for you quilters that have remnants left over from other projects. This is a nice little scrap stash buster. Because this is a great scrap buster project, yeah, you want to go through your stash and find colors of fabric that will work as elements in a landscape. So you're going to want to find, say, a blue, a light blue for the sky. And if you're doing, say, mountain scenes and you want to get a gradation of browns from light to dark. And then also you might want to do some grassy meadow hills, and so you want some greens. And you might want to even put a water element in it as a pond or lake. And so you want blues that will work as water as well. Possibly batiks or other fabrics that seem to have some movement to them work great as water. Or if you want to do a beach scene, then you'd need also your sky element, but then a gradation from dark blue to light blue for the ocean, some white fabric to emulate foam at the where the waves have landed on the shore, and then maybe some sandy colors of fabric as well to create dunes in the beach. So get all these different color fabrics together that work well as landscape elements, and once you get those gathered up, then you can take them over to your cutting board and cut them into strips. Depending on the size of the project that you're doing, ours is going to be rather small, so strips anywhere from 2 to 4 inches wide will work for what we're creating here today. But for like the large quilt that you saw in the beginning of the video, those pieces were much wider. So depending on the scale of your project, then you just have to determine how wide your strips need to be. So you cut those strips into the width that fits the project that you're going to create. Okay, so we can head over to the work table now, and I'll show you how to create our landscape elements. Okay, Busters, so we're all set up here. So what you're going to need at the beginning of this project is a rolling cutter and a cutting mat, and then you're going to need an iron, preferably a steam iron, and that helps you create your elements. So I'll show you. The nice thing about this project is there is no pattern. It's all in your imagination. You create just the elements and the design. So take your fabric. This one here is a good color for, say, hills. And so you just simply freeform gentle slopes. So there you are. So that will work nice for some hills. See, and after you do more of these, you just take and layer them together like that. But the next step, after you cut all your pieces, you want to fold the top raw edge under about 1/4 inch and then iron that down. I'll show you that now. Okay, then you can, once you get that pressed down, then you can hit it with steam to help lock it into place. Alright, so that's what that would look like then. And so once you have all your elements cut and ironed over, then you can start laying out your landscape. And I'll show you how quick and easy it is to do that. So I've got some fabric here with stars. So say you wanted to make a night scene. So you have your sky, and let's get some mountains. So we can use this guy. There we go, and then you can, you mat it, you have a nice little scene like that. Or if you put it in a larger frame, then like that. Let's see how it's just that simple to make a landscape. And so once you get to this point where you've decided how you want your landscape to look, then you'll take and pin all this together so it doesn't move. And then after you get it pinned, then you'll take it to the sewing machine, and just about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, you just do a simple top stitch, and that locks it all together. So I've got a couple landscapes that I have picked out elements for. Let me get those put together. I'll get them pinned and show you what it looks like at that point. Okay, Busters, so here I've got 2 landscapes pinned together, and so let me show you kind of what it looks like. So I made these, like I say, a size that I can put into a picture frame. So this one is kind of my beach scene. So the sky, my ocean waves, and it's supposed to look kind of like a bay. So we've got some land projecting out into the water here, the ocean waves, sand dunes, and grass. And then on this other one, this here is my mountain scene. And so it's kind of night sky with the sunset, snow-capped mountains here. And the way you do these with the jagged peaks, you cut that out with a scissor in the shape that you want. But something different that you have to do to the snow-capped peaks that are a little bit different than the hills is at the peaks and the valleys, you want to cut out just little triangles so it makes it easier to fold under your 1/4 inch and then iron it down the same as you would the regular curving hills. And so we've got the snow-capped peaks, hills, a little bit of a lake, and some grassy areas in the front, and flowery meadow there. And so that's our landscapes. So the next thing to do is we're ready to do the top stitching on this. So before you do the top stitching, you know, you've decided what size you want it. Like I said, I'm putting it in a picture frame, and these frames usually come with a cardboard backing. You can use the cardboard to figure out ultimately what size your landscape is going to be. And so what I do is I lay it on here and get it in the position that shows everything I want it to show. Once you determine the size of your landscape and where it's coming out of all your fabrics, then take a fine point disappearing ink marker, and you get that at your now. So I say, now we're ready to top stitch this. Let me explain one other thing that's going to be different doing this small project as opposed to my larger art quilt that you saw. So I'll show you on the large one, on all the elements of the landscape, I had done a satin stitch over the top of all of that after I had top stitched everything down and removed all the pins. And that works really well for that larger format of quilt. But because this is so small, if we satin stitched everything, that'd be too bulky. So for something small, if you're doing a small landscape like this here that we're doing today, all you're going to do is top stitch all the elements, and that'll be it. And so I will select a blue thread that coordinates, just one color blue thread that works for all my blue elements, one green thread that works for all the green elements, and then one, in this case, orange thread that works with these elements. And then same over here, you'll pick a brown thread that coordinates with everything, and a purple, green, blue. So that way you don't have to keep changing the thread too often in your sewing machine. It's at this time we will also make our quilt sandwich. So what you're going to want for this project is some cutaway stabilizer. You get all this at your fabric store. I got this at Joann's Fabrics. So you want a stabilizer, and then your quilt batting, and then cut that so that fits inside your picture frame. And so it'll be at this time that we will take each element, and I suggest putting the stabilizer on the bottom and then your quilt batting next, and then apply that underneath your landscape and line it up to the lines that you just drew now, and then pin that together. And you'll just need a few pins to kind of hold that in place, and then it's ready to be top stitched. So let me get these underneath and pinned in place, and then the next thing is we'll go to the sewing machine. All right, Buster Buddies. So I've got both landscapes pinned together. So you can see here, I just pinned the corners right in the center. I used my heaviest pins though. It's these right there. These are some old pins, actually were my grandmother's, but these pearl-headed ones have a very heavy metal shaft to them, so they penetrate the layers well and hold it together. You don't need a lot, it's just enough to keep it in place. And actually, you just need to have this pinned together long enough, because now the next thing we're going to do, and that's why we drew a line around the outside here, we're just going to do a basting stitch just all the way around, just about 1/8 of an inch in from your line, and that way it holds it stable, and then you can remove those pins. So I'll do that to both pieces here. Oh, the other thing, in my sewing machine, I put these titanium quilting needle. I put in a 9014. It's because it's going through kind of heavy layers, so you want a fairly substantial needle. And then the other thing, when I'm doing quilting, I like to use these quilting gripper gloves. I had modified it. I cut off the thumb and the first finger. That way, if I'm needing to do something with a thread or needle, I have better feel for the, whatever I'm having to grip. So let's get those on. Okay, so we'll just stitch around this. Oh, and the other thing I did is, if your sewing machine can do it, mine can. I was able to shift my needle all the way as far to the left as possible, and that lines up the edge of my presser foot to the needle at about 1/8 of an inch. So then when we're going to top stitch all the landscape pieces, you just use the outside edge of the presser foot as a guide to the edge of the landscape piece that you're stitching down. Okay, so let's get this basted in place. Okay, so that one is basted all down. I'm going to do the other landscape as well, so as soon as I get that done, I'll get right back to you. Alright, so we're all basted all the way around, and so now you can actually pull your pins from the corners, but leave your center one in place just to help anchor that. But you can pull your corner pins out, and then you can place them in your little owl pin cushion that obviously you've made from my channel. I have a video, and I will link it at the end of this video, a pattern for this, and actually a penguin as well. You can make either or both. But yeah, they're handy little pin cushions. They have a nice flat bottom. They sit real well, and they're real cute. They look great around your workstation. So yeah, pull those pins, and then we're ready for the next step. All right, so the next thing you'll want to do is start top stitching along the top edge of each element. Just stay like 1/8 of an inch away, and then go all the way up to the top and change colors as you progress. So that's what I'll do next. So let me change my bobbin and thread, and we'll proceed. All right, so I'm just, like I say, stitching these white elements. Seeing I had only a couple landscape, I figured I'd get the white out of the way so I can take it out of the machine. And the other thing to do when you're top stitching this is good practice for any project that you're sewing with your sewing machine, is make sure you back stitch or set your machine to lock stitch at the beginning and at the end of your stitching. To do the mountain range with the peaks, you're also going to, it'd be helpful to have a needle down element, because you'll stitch to the high point, leave the needle down or raise your presser foot, then pivot, then sew down to the valley point, and then leave the needle down, lift your presser foot, and on and on and on. So it's just takes a little more time. It's really fast to do all the other elements, but these mountain peaks take a little more time. All right, let's get going with it. So there's the mountain range all stitched in. So let me change my thread out and we'll continue on. Obviously, I'm not going to make you sit through every element, but let me show you just basically one more how it's done, and you'll get the idea, and then we'll get back to it when I've got all this stitched together. Alright, so I've got my new thread in. This is going to be orange for my kind of orangish elements. I chose kind of a brighter contrasting one, just so you get some nice color in this. So I'll show you on my orange elements, and then you'll get the idea how it's all stitched down. Everything else is done the same way. So I'll get going on this. Enjoy the music. Alright, Busters, I got you repositioned here. Hopefully you can see a little bit better, and let's get going. Like I said, enjoy the music. Okay, so got my orange locked in there. That's stitched out really nice. Got it finished on my other piece. Okay, so basically the rest of the project is done just like that. Just top stitch all your elements, and that's what I'm going to do now off camera. And so when I'm done with that, I'll get back with you and show you what we do next. Okay, Busters, so here we are. So I've got the landscapes all stitched down. Both of them are all top stitched. And so the next step is just to trim it to size. So the easiest way is to turn it over. So you previously cut your stabilizer and quilt batting to the size of the cardstock that comes in the picture frame. And so with a straight quilting ruler, let's just trim off our excess. Now is also a good time to try and square it up, just to make sure that it's a good square fit in the frame. And you can square it up by, you made one true cut here, so line up one of the lines on your quilting ruler with that cut edge, and then that'll give you a nice 90-degree cut on the top. And just keep rotating it and doing that all the way around. So there's our first one all trimmed up. I'll do the next one and then we'll get on to the next step. Alright Busters, so we're at this point. We've cut our projects down to size to fit in the picture frames. And if you didn't want to put these in a picture frame, then really you could do your quilting first and then just bind the edge and, you know, leave it at that. Anyway, so yeah, we are at the point where now I can do any extra quilting I want to do. I also am going to apply some appliques at this point. I've made like some tree appliques for this mountainscape, and I've got some fencing and a little sailboat that I cut out here. So yeah, this would be the time to make appliques and then iron those on. I am going to use, and I love this for small appliques. If you haven't seen this before, it's called a Clover, and it's got this little ironing head, and so you plug it in and it heats up. There's an on-off switch, and it goes high and low and off. But yeah, this is perfect for just doing small area appliques. And so if I can find a link to this, say on Amazon, I will put that in the description below. I'll apply my appliques now. We'll take both pieces to my sewing machine and I'll do my extra quilt sewing at that time, and we'll come back here. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so let me get my appliques on here. Okay, Busters, so I've got my appliques kind of in position where I want them. And so I know they're kind of small, and I'll zoom in on with my camera so you can get a better look at this, but I'm just going to peel off the backings and iron them down. So I'll just speed through that, and so enjoy the music there. Okay, Busters, so that's all my appliques applied. So let me get my sewing machine set back up for our free motion stitching, and we will do the rest of our embellishment to these art quilts. Okay, Busters, so I am going to work on the beach scene first, because I have white in the machine already. So I am going to free motion some clouds. That's why I like this particular fabric. It's kind of got just a pattern to it, and it's very random, but if you just kind of follow some of the outline, it makes nice clouds. Oh, and also, I don't know how well you can see it, I put on my sewing machine a free motion hopping foot, and I have my sewing machine set for free motion. Oh, one more thing I forgot. All right, well, I told you that I forgot one thing. Well, actually, it was more than one thing. It was two things. I'm in free motion on my machine settings, but I have to lower the feed dogs so they're not grinding away at the back of the project. And then the other thing I like to use is a slick mat. And these are very handy if you're doing quilting free motion. It's a very smooth surface, and that way you just stick this underneath your machine, and it gives it a slicker surface to move around on. You just have to line it up where the needle goes. There we go. Yeah, it's got kind of a tacky back to it, but the surface is very slick, so it makes it easier to move the project around. Okay, now we're ready to start making clouds. Okay, Busters, so there's my clouds. I won't make you sit through everything that I'm going to do next. So I will do all my free motion stitching now. And so I'll check back in with you when I'm done with that and show you how that looks. And then I'll show you what we're going to do next, how we're going to mount it in the frame and then embellish our frame. All right, we'll see you then. So here are the finished landscapes with after I've quilted them. So let me show you what I added. So here in the beach scene, I did a little rustic fence line with some wire fencing that's kind of crumbled down on the sand dunes. And then I added some texture to the waves, added a little sailboat on the water, and then quilted in some clouds, followed kind of the texture of the fabric for that. And then in the mountainscape, added some pine trees, have a nice one there, large one, put ripples in the lake. And then as you go further back, obviously you want the pine trees to get smaller and smaller. And then I added a bird up in the sky and then some rays to the sunset. And so that's what I did with my quilting. And depending on your project, you make it however you want. Anyway, at this point, you could actually put binding around it and punch some holes in the corners and tie up some twine to hang it from. It'd be a nice rustic look. But as I said earlier, I want to mount these in some picture frames, and I want to do some embellishing to the mat around the pictures. So that's what we'll do next. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, Busters, so now we're ready to mount the mat to our landscape, and we're going to do that with a hot glue gun, and it's all hot and ready to go. So what I recommend doing, once you get it placed and positioned where you want, let's use some blue painter's tape. It's low tack, so it won't hurt the paper on the mat. And you just need small pieces. You don't need a lot. So just to hold it in place once you get it positioned where you want it. Okay, so that'll hold it. Why don't you flip it over so you don't lose the position you want. And then all you do is just, wherever you can get the hot glue around the edge, or even if you have to pick up a corner just to put a little dot there, just to hold it in place so you can get it into the frame. Doesn't have to be a ton of glue, just enough to get the job done. But yeah, we'll just hang on to that for a minute, and as soon as that cools off, we'll turn it over. Flip that back over, get the tape off. So that's, like I say, it's not on long enough to do any harm to the mat itself. Then the next thing we're going to do is actually put it in the frame before we do any of the embellishments. So let's grab our frame for this particular picture. I'm using a nice light color one, kind of beachy looking. So that goes in. And for this kind of a project, these kind of frames that have these kind of staples that you can fold up out of the way and then fold down to lock it in, they work really well because they're kind of adjustable for the thickness of the project. So drop that into place. And then these frames usually come with a back. So let's grab that back and put that in. All right. And then either with a screwdriver or something, I'll use the back of this heavy duty tweezer just to push these into place. And give them a good push down to hold it. There we go. Okay. So there we are, all mounted. So the next thing I want to do, like I say, is some embellishments. And I got an idea. I went by the dollar store, and they have these bags of seashells for just $1.25. And some of them are too big, but they have some different sizes in here, and I thought it might look cool to put a couple seashells around on the mat. Actually, we might be able to get away with something like that. All right, I don't think we're going to add much more than just the 2 of them. I don't really think we need to clutter it up too much. Just like I say, this is just an embellishment. So, and we can do this with hot glue as well. Goes like that. Okay, so that's it for that, but then I want to do another thing that you can do to kind of embellish is to actually, you know, have your picture kind of run out onto the mat, so create elements. So what I was thinking of doing is continuing part of the landscape over here. All right, there you go. So it's a simple embellishment there. Just gives you a little more interest in your work here. I think that'll be the end of that one, and I will do the mountainscape off camera and then show you what that looks like when I'm finished. So stand by for that. Okay, Busters, so here are the finished projects. Hey, I hope you like the way these turned out. Hey, I hope you give it a try too. Hope you learned something new on this one. It's always fun to try something new, especially when they come out looking so nice. All right, so, hey, I used a lot of different products on this project, so I'll try to put as many links to these products that I use to create these projects in the description below. Hey, thanks for watching. Hey, if you like this project, please give me a thumbs up. Share my videos around, that really helps me out. Yep, tell your friends about it. Leave comments. I like to answer all the comments that come my way. All right, well, let's do a sign off right now. Thanks for watching. All right, Busters, that project came out really cool. Hey, I hope you learned something new on this project. Hey, if you really like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming projects. And hey, if you really want to help out my channel, go to my Buy Me a Coffee page and buy me a coffee. That really helps me out. Hey, all right, thanks for watching. Love you all, folks. Peace out, baby, and go bust out some art.